Hello and welcome to This Contains Garlic. You're here with your host Georgia Garlic
Mark Garlic.
and we are today talking to you about, I guess in general, the reasonings why when you come to a professional for help, i.e. a coach or a nutritionist or a strength coach, why you need to listen. And I think it's something which it's not something that we don't deal with on a day-to-day basis with both clients and also just answering questions in the general population. But we have seen it happen probably more times than it should. And sometimes you think, why are they doing that? But more often than not, we're going to talk about why you feel the need to either not listen to somebody that's given you professional advice on targets or how you should do something, or dramatically undereat or think that you know better in a situation where your health is at play. So Mark can flesh this out a little bit as to what we're trying to discuss in this, because we think it's super important that people start to understand the reasons why we do things the way that we do as professionals.
I think when it comes to wanting to see and make progress, people obviously want to do it as quickly as possible and see as much change as possible, even at the even sacrificing general adherence in the long term. So, as fitness professionals, we understand that for you to see a impressive body transformation, whether it's physically or mentally, it needs to be done over a long, consistent period of time. It's not going to be achieved in 6 weeks or 6 months. And we put things in place as having no having known that obviously the main importance is consistency and adherence in the long term. So we generally tend to use higher targets just so that we can set a base and understand people's metabolic rates and inputs and outputs and start to understand their lifestyles. But there's a very consistent narrative of, these targets are too high, this is too much
I would
food.
say that
And
there's a difference in that. I think when people we're going to talk, let's talk directly to those that have a lot of weight to lose. Okay, if we were to talk about a general day-to-day life of somebody that has got a lot of body weight on them and they need to lose it for health reasons and also themselves, the likely is that you are doing probably all of these or a few of them. You are overeating, you're not moving enough, or you are moving enough but you're overeating on a day-to-day basis, or maybe you're drinking a lot of alcohol, or all of these things that come into play, which makes you obviously be consuming a higher target in general to be at a larger or heavier body weight. Now, when you go and you're in that desperate need to change, or you aren't happy with something, you then go and seek third-party advice, or somebody to help you, which obviously is exactly the way that you should be doing it. You should be seeking somebody that's a professional in these areas to be able to guide and coach you through this moment, which is really quite serious. But we've always known weight loss in the industry to be something that is meant to be quick. And I have no idea why. Because at the end of the day, and I've seen it happen with clients that haven't listened to us, even though they still might coach with us, I've seen it happen to those that have gone on their own journeys and I guess picked up targets or random numbers from places and started following them. At the end of the day, when data is not accurate, or you cannot physically be consistent or adherent to certain numbers, there is just zero understanding on what your metabolic output is, or in the sense of energy in and energy out. And so when people come on board with us and they say, I need to lose weight, which is pretty much, I would say 90% of people come to us and say, I need to lose weight, we're looking at a number of things. Okay, well, why is the person got weight on them to lose in the first place? So that's not a judgment factor. We've got to understand your environmental, your lifestyle factors, your relationships. We've then got to understand what your difficulties are and your obstacles and your hurdles. And then we've got to weigh up, okay, well, how many calories is this person, do you think, is consuming to have either be the body weight they are, or consistently maintain that body weight in which they want to change? And so Mark obviously touched on the fact that usually we set higher targets, but I don't like looking at it like that, because most of the time, if you matched up somebody's diet to what they said they were eating to actually how much they're eating, usually they're eating over the target of which we would have set them in the first place. So, I mean, I've recently consulted with numerous people, and same with Mark, who will say, I follow 1,500 calories a day. Yeah, I do 10,000 steps. Yeah, I go to the gym 4 times a week. I just can't lose any weight. And the first thing I guess you kind of say is, well, you're not. The reality is you're not. And, you know, people always think that they're being adherent or tracking something. They're not. You can't guess this shit. You just cannot guess it. Like, I don't know if you would agree that, like, when an individual doesn't hold a lot of muscle mass and their body weight is much higher, you know, you are going to be overeating, or you're just not moving enough. So
yeah, it's not a complicated scenario. It's one of the two aspects of either inputs or outputs, and it is a very nuanced topic, but it can be boiled down to, if you are carrying excess body fat, the reality is you are consuming more calories than you are burning. Now, that could be environmental, it could be socioeconomic environment, it could be a whole bunch of things that we could spend a whole hour talking about. But the reality is it comes down to that balance. And when we set a target, we're not necessarily like, the assumption and the narrative that people are currently conversing with us, it's like we're trying to work against them to a certain degree.
I've always thought that.
And be like, oh no, we're just secretly gonna set out a target that you're gonna just double in size, and you're just gonna get really overweight, and we're gonna, you know, make the whole process even worse. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And it's just this very low calorie, very fatty diet culture narrative that people are under the perception that they, you know, if you're a woman, you need to eat 1,200 calories to 1,600
I don't think it's any
calories.
different for men. I don't know. I think I've nutritionally fucking matched male clients of ours where, like, they'll be eating 1,700 calories a day, and like they go to the gym 5 times a week, and they're really active, and they can't sustain or build any kind of muscle mass. And these are the things that obviously you have to look at.
You know, it comes down to the raw mathematics of 1 pound of body fat is 3,500 calories. And if you want to lose half a pound of body fat per week, you need to be in a 500 calorie deficit.
But then people don't even understand what their calories are in the first place. And this is what I will bang on about till literally the day I die, is the fact that if you do not give somebody the time, like when people come to us, like, and we're not the usual in this industry because we're actually professionals in it. We're not just like, I guess, some kind of influencer or con artist to a degree. But, you know, you're used to seeing, you're used to signing up to somebody because you like what they look like or what they do. And then more likely than not, they then set you something which mimics their lifestyle because they're unable to understand other factors other than their own lifestyle. And that's how they've made their whole vibe. So if I'm in shape, you're in shape also. Now, the reality is they've not gone and said, you know what, let's take some further information here and let's talk, let's understand like why you're in the position that you are in. They're setting you just a very generic target. That target is 150% not correct for you. No. And the reason I say this is because when you come to us, you are a completely new person. You're new. You have no understanding yourself, and we have no understanding of you until we get to know you. Yeah. And if we can't figure out these baselines, you are literally fucking yourself in the arse. And I'm sure some people would enjoy that, but at the end of the day, you are shortening your lifespan of results within seconds. Because if you don't, first of all, I always say to people, what is the bloody rush? Do you know what I mean? Okay, so unless your goal is like, right, I've got to be in shape for a movie in 3 months' time, which is very abnormal for most people. The reality is that your goal is lifelong. You don't want to be yo-yoing. You want to be able to get into a dress that you like, you know what I mean, and be able to stay in that dress year in, year out without thinking, fuck, what have I done wrong? And so when you come and you effectively shorten yourself, so we say to you, right, I think you need to be eating 2,000 calories a day, 2,100 calories a day, because we think that that's your from what you've given and what we've spoken about, we think that this is your average maintenance range. We want you to be as consistent and adherent as possible to those calories so that we can really match out what is going on in your body and how we're going to adjust those numbers for you to see the progress in which you want. But what happens is then people go, that's too many calories. But number one, you're not qualified or professional enough to say that. You don't know the ins and outs, okay? So you've just come to somebody to tell you that, so you need to listen.
And
okay?
the reality is you're consuming more than that number in the first place.
Absolutely. And I think time and time again, I have consulted, and this is somebody that used to be like very overweight. I have consulted with women who have a huge amount of body weight with them, same with Mark, and are sitting there saying that they only eat 1,300 calories a day. When we go and try and get them consistent on adherent to something, it's actually like eye-opening for them to see how much they actually are consuming, in the sense of, I didn't track that, I don't think I need to track that, I don't think I need to be, adherent, I don't think I need to do that. Well, the reality is you do, because this actually helps you. It helps you be able to eat higher targets, not feel restricted with food, to be able to understand yourself more, understand how much output you need to make a day. But
if you're eating more food on a day-to-day basis, in regards to you and as an individual, then you're able to expend more energy when you train, which is going to help your body composition massively. And this whole idea of, well, let me just drop my calories down to a really, really low number and hope for the best when I strength train,
like
that I'm
drowning.
going to build muscle mass. You're just having a negative impact on your overall body composition as your body reverts to breaking down protein for energy, because it's far more efficient in breaking down proteins than it is breaking down carbohydrates to a certain degree.
I think
especially in a deficit.
People always want like a body recomp. The reality is not many people can body recomp, and I'll be brutally honest
have to
with
train
you.
so hard, and it is possible. And we've had a client this month literally put on 3 kilos of muscle mass and gotten leaner and reduced his body fat levels.
I honestly really think that's a rare case, because
what was the main driving factor when you saw his check-in forms? He was consistently pushing and training as hard as he physically could within those gym sessions.
Okay, but I'm going to be honest with you. I think men have it a lot easier because they don't have the interruptions of things like hormonal changes.
No, of course. I'm just saying.
Or hormonal changes in general. And I think
it's not about comparing it to genders. I'm just saying it's about the underlying factor is there needs to be a level of intensity to facilitate the most amount of progress, and you're certainly not going to be doing that on a low calorie diet.
Yeah, but I'm talking here, like that specific person you're talking about was naturally quite lean anyway. Now, not just like they've definitely achieved huge amounts, and that's fantastic for them, but in the terms of somebody that's got body fat on them and quite a lot of it, the reality is you're not holding that much muscle mass. And I just want to clear stuff up here, because it does, I don't know what it is, sometimes I think like, does this come across rude or like short or abrupt? For you to build muscle, you actually need to fucking do something. You actually need to train with a level of fucking intensity. You actually need to give a fuck. You actually need to be paying attention. You need to be giving all the environment factors. If not, you are not building muscle. And I am sorry to say this, but muscle is one of the hardest things to build. You can reveal muscle quite easily, or what we can say joints or an outline of a muscle from just losing body fat. That does not mean that you necessarily are holding.
And it was, and the people to blame for that narrative is the fitness industry, because what would happen is you have a client that would come and you would do a weigh-in or your traditional thing, and then you'd see the scale weight going up, and the first thing a person in the industry would do would cop out. Instead of addressing the issues head on, they would say, well, you've been strength training, so you've just put on muscle. So you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
it's like, what the fuck? I
I've
wish
just
it was
put on
that
2 kilos of muscle in a week. And instead of being like, actually, you probably weren't adherent to the targets that I've set you and having a really uncomfortable situation. That is the source of the narrative.
I think most people at the moment.
So
and I
everyone
think-
just thinks that, I've just put on 4 kilos of muscle mass in 2 weeks. And it's like, no, that is definitely 100%
But
categorically
I would say
wrong.
we can blame the industry time and time again. But I also think that like people need to switch on to this as to how things actually work. And I think people are going in with, number one, you can't even adhere to one goal. Why have you set yourself 3? You want a body recomp, build muscle and lose fucking fat. Okay, let's start at fucking phase 1. Do you know what I mean?
You gotta pick
you
one.
You want to lose fat. Okay, we're going to complement this loss, fat loss with strength training or strength and conditioning training or lifting weights so that you don't end up looking like an empty sack. Okay, but does that mean you're still giving yourself the environment to be able to build muscle? No. And this is what I want to say, and time again, I'm like, if you don't give yourself either a higher maintenance range consistently or a surplus and your training matches, this is not just fucking going to the gym and lifting like one dumbbell and just thinking that's it. I'm talking training to the intensity in which would match this. That is when you're building muscle. The reality is that when you go and stick yourself in low calorie diets, or I'll take an example, you've lost a lot of body fat because of a low calorie diet. Maybe you have trained throughout that, but because you've always been following a low calorie diet, you've never given yourself the best environment to build muscle or ever, that hasn't really been the focal point. So when you go and get to a point where you're like, actually, I want to have this toned physique and now I feel a bit empty, you're just never giving yourself the right environment for it to happen. And if you constantly eat down in the sense of your numbers, or you're just not adherent to any numbers on a day-to-day basis consistently, you cannot expect the results to match. And I think, I'm sick of the fact that our industry is entirely based off of either what I look like or you look like, that somebody buys in to be like us, or that people are so influenced by us. Like, you should be influenced by what we know in the sense of how we can help you, not by, I know we need to look like we're fucking follow what we preach, do you know what I mean, in some degree, but this is the only fucking job where you have to always look something. And it is, I'm going to say that's specific to training. When it comes to nutrition, I know multiple nutritionists that look like nothing that you would be like riding home about in the sense of the more fitness industry. But yet when it comes to like exercise, for some reason you have to be that like shredded or like top off, guns out, fucking I'm in your face in a vest. And if you're not, then you're weak and you're fucking pathetic and you know nothing. Do you know what I mean? When actually those that are the pinnacle of those shapes absolutely most of the time know nothing and are absolutely miserable because they've never followed any kind of dietary
They're just very
advice.
consistent. That's the reality of it.
No, Mark, because most of them are all eating. Like, those are the men that would be pumping out fucking meal plans with like 1,100 calories and good luck sucking on,
but they themselves, the main marketing and driving factor for people signing up in the first place is because of what those people look like.
How fuck's that?
And the
though?
reality
Like,
is
it's
those
really weird.
people,
We're not an influencer,
those people
though.
are just dogmatic in their application, regardless of whether the environment.
I think there's some things that I would say.
there's a lot of
genetically. I also find a
genetics,
lot of
yes.
eating disorders floating around here as well.
I guess,
So they're
but
not.
you've still got to be consistent with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you've got to be super consistent with eating a
An eating
calorie
disorder,
controlled
yeah.
diet, or excessively exercising, and the vast majority of it's driven by A, narcissism, B, people being neurotic, C, insecurities, list a whole bunch of negative aspects. But the reality is that there is a dogmatic level of consistency over a long period of time.
In a room, like somebody, like there's a guy in our gym who, like, I just don't even give a fuck, but who legitimately is on the stair mark. Like This is what I mean. So he's really lean and he's got a decent amount of muscle on his upper body, okay? I think his legs could do with some fucking work. But he literally is religious on the Stairmaster. He trains like 3 times a day or something hectic and like is clearly like fighting demons on the Stairmaster, okay? And he'll go and he'll sweat for like hours on end just fucking pumping the Stairmaster. That is like really ill, like in the head. You've got issues to deal with there, okay? But if you put him in the room with somebody that had less muscle mass, was probably a strength and conditioning coach for a massive football team, probably looked just like your average, do you know what I mean? But probably knew quite a lot, and said, which one of these two do you think it probably knows better, or which one would you compliment first? It would 100% be the guy that's got so many demons that it's like actually worrying, versus the guy that's probably just got quite a healthy lifestyle, balance, knows his shit, and just does his job on a day-to-day basis. I don't think it's a fair representation, and I think so many people like latched on to when I lost a huge amount of weight, and it's like, please don't choose me for that though, because
to be fair, it is very difficult, and it's not very often that you see people that have been consistent in this industry, because
I listen to myself.
If we rewind ourselves back to 2010 or like around that time, somewhere around there, you know, everybody was clean eating, everyone had an eating disorder. You know, in hindsight, everyone's now marketing the fact that they had an eating disorder and they were this and they were that. So back then, the market is driven by fad dieting, which it still is to a certain degree, but more so then. And everybody has set themselves out to being a certain narrative and has reversed on that completely, you know. Everybody shot to famous when they were doing their before and afters from when they were like 14 to... and they were all super shredded. And then now it's the complete opposite to where they were completely shredded and yo-yoed and...
Yeah,
you know, then they had an eating disorder. Isn't it a true
representation that I can happily say that I really haven't changed that much? In the sense of not myself, but I really didn't change that much.
I think because we do it so often, and we're so like the level of consistency is just that in its own right is foreign to your average individual.
No, but I'm not going to sit here and toot my own fucking horn at all, because I'm just not one of those people to do so. But when you're sat there fat as fuck, do you know what I mean, as a girl, nobody really has like much aspiration for, you know, nobody's really thinking, wow, this person's going to get anywhere, do you know what I mean? It like, I'm being brutally honest here, like fat as fuck, everybody's judging you because of it. Yeah. Like, the reality is that I don't want to feel that way ever again. Do I not get feelings similar, like even now? Yeah, of course. Like, I think it's just your mental capacity to deal with things. But I stayed true to what I could do and could manage, do you know what I mean? Pretty much the whole way through. And yeah, I've probably fluctuated on and off and built a huge amount more muscle over the years and have consistently applied myself in that. And yes, I'm a fucking professional in the industry. Like, I should be, you know, I should be where I am, do you know what I mean? Because I know a lot, you know, and that's also a thing. Like, if you know more, do better. That's what I always say. Like, if you know this shit, why are you not doing it? If you're being told this stuff by a professional, and a professional is not like your average person, do you know what I mean? That's just like, it's done like a couple of like read PubMed once, do you know what I mean? And somebody thinks they're a guru on gut health, or, you know what I mean? I'm talking people that have actually dealt with people consistently, got results that have been sustained, enjoyed, maintained, adhered to. But when you go for that third party, like I mean, I speak with clients regularly about this already, like at the moment, like it's stop shortchanging yourself on something that you think's going to happen, because who's going to have a more accurate outside of what's going to happen? We are, because we're more scientifically orientated than you are, and that's absolutely fucking fine. That's because it's our jobs. But if you're wanting the help and, you know, the direction to get that end goal you're so desperate for, which is normally to look good in yourself and feel good in yourself, then, you know, why are you not listening? And this is what I always say, why do you not listen to the professionals' advice and fight against it? Because you're in that desperate situation going, oh God, I don't know what to do. I'm just going to shortchange myself. I'm just going to start following 1,500 calories, but I'm not going to do it properly. And I'll just do it sporadically. And oh no, it didn't work. So that's it. That's that done. Do you know what I mean? On to the next thing. Oh no, I don't like that. It doesn't work for me. The reality is that like science works for everybody. We just need to stomach that. Do you know what I mean? And swallow the fact that, you know, when you have to go and track for a period of time, and I say a period of time because it's not something that's long term, 24/7 all the time, but when you track for that period of time, your eyes are wide fucking open at just like, sometimes it's not nice. It's like when your bank balance goes down, you're like, great, do you know what I mean? Like it's like, so oh, is that all I'm left with? Great. But then you start to realise that if you want to have those healthy organs inside of you, do you know what I mean? And the life where you're not super out of breath, just like walking to the bus. Or
it's not only that, but it's things like fertility, libido, mental
like,
health. You know, the list is fairly endless and goes on and on and on. And it's just very frustrating as coaches to experience this, because at the end of the day, we're not the people that are going to be drastically impacted by this. It's the person that is going to potentially self-sabotage themselves for what they assume to be the right thing in the short period, but then in the long term, obviously go through those things where they obviously can't sustain it. They yo-yo, and then they end up generally a lot worse off than when they first started in the first place.
Also, can come down to when people put things off in the sense of starting things, because they're like, okay, right, so I've got a birthday in, I think it's June the 8th. Yeah, it's June the 8th. Yeah, I can't start. No, I think it's just going to really throw me off. Like, point one, nobody, if you want to have any kind of healthy aspect, you know, should be dragging one event or one dinner or one
it's like
thing
one meal out
through
of the
a fucking whole
context.
month. Like, get a grip. Like, point one.
It's
like,
one meal out of the whole day. Like, you budget some calories around that one meal and you just get on with it.
Or
but
you
like,
just fucking
it's
don't
my
budget calories
birthday,
and you enjoy it, but you've been adherent for the past 7 weeks where you've like, you know, you can afford to do that. But it's like, a lot of people can't afford to do this. And I hate to be brutally honest the way that I am now, because I think this would have been different maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But post-COVID, I have never spoken more with people about how overweight and uncomfortable they are now due to the fact that their whole lifestyle changed. And it's actually like, we see this day in, day out with our clients.
Yeah, and it's not small numbers that we're talking about, like 5 kilos. We're talking about 30, 20.
20,
you know,
30, 40 kilos easy.
These are, you know, depending on, like, at the end of the day, you can feel how you want to feel about certain narratives. If you're gaining large amounts of weight, excess weight, over a given period of time, it is going to have a negative impact on your health.
And if it comes on that quickly, probably even worse.
You know, 30 kilos, let alone, like, if you're a little bit overweight and then you've put on 30 kilos, that is a life-changing amount of weight with regards to the way that your hormones are fluctuating or going to fluctuate, how your heart has to adapt to working harder. You know, there's such a and it's not like the vast majority of people, I hate to admit it, but like most people can't lose 30 kilos. Do you know what I mean?
No, so, I lost 60 and I literally was like, that's a
like
huge
30 kilos
amount
is so much for, you know, is such a huge amount for your average individual. So that weight gain has had a long-lasting impact on your mental and physical
health. But I think it's changed people's psychology, because it's that whole thing of they'll do this thing now, and I have been in this this situation of denial. Like, I can literally vividly remember it, of being like, well, I've piled on literally 30 or 40 kilos in body fat. It's nothing more than that. It's body fat. Oh, well, I went for a run. Maybe I built some muscle, lol. And I'm sat there going, yeah, but I wouldn't want to be back down where I was. Do you know what I mean? It was unhealthy. And it's like, what? Do you know what I mean?
I think there's context to that statement, though, because like there's a lot of people that refer back to themselves and they, you know, talk about it like it was yesterday and it was in 2001.
No, but
when
I'm
they were
saying that, like, if
13.
you say you've gained like 40 kilos, 30 kilos in 2 or 3 years, that's a
Yeah.
lot of body weight, okay?
Yeah.
And then you go and, because you're in denial, you don't want to really accept that it's really that bad, that you can't, you then
Yeah,
go and
so true.
speak down at what you did used to weigh. I don't think weighing is like, but it is, we're talking about body fat and body weight. It is one of those things.
Well,
that
the
is gonna
reality is
fluctuate.
if you put on 30 kilos in 2 years, unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger and you're on 600 milligrams of testosterone injections,
I fucking wish.
you are, it's body fat.
Yeah, it's body
Okay.
fat. But it's that denial, oh no, I couldn't get down to that because I actually think that lowest weight I was, no, that wasn't sustainable.
Yeah.
But the reality is it's not necessarily that it wasn't sustainable. It was how your environment then influenced you to be in the position where you are. There is so much, and I say this to every woman that I've ever worked with in the sense of a large fat loss diet. The fucking physical side is so piss easy. What you're going to get swallowed up by is the mental side. And if you're not willing to brace this shit, and that's what we're talking about with self-reflection or understanding what triggers you, understanding your environment, what's good for you and what's not, it is going to come back and bite you really hard. Like,
anybody can be motivated for 12 weeks, do you know what I
not
mean?
even
Or 6 months.
2 months. It could be 2 years.
Yeah, it could be 2 years. It could
Yeah.
be 2 years. It could be 6 months. It could be whatever. Anybody can have that motivation and willpower to sustain certain things that are contrary to their environment and their lifestyle. But the reality is if you can't sustain it for the rest of your life, like Georgia said, these are lifelong goals. It's not I'm going to start something and then see how it goes for the next 6 months. It's you start something and you continue to do that for the rest of your life.
And I say that actually I'd say that when it comes to nutrition, it's the same thing that I talk about a lot with people, and is like what you eat on a day-to-day basis, how we just stay alive. So let's just take away all of the like scientific bits, whether you lose, you gain weight. Like what you eat on a day-to-day basis, just how we stay alive. Do you know what I mean? So it's not what diet am I on next, or what should I change, or whatever. This is what you've got to do every single day of your fucking life if you just want to eat well and just fucking breathe and move your body in some normal way. And I'm always against the ultimate shredded physique because I know that's an eating disorder. I've worked with too many people to know that. And it's hiding all these emotions and insecurities and deflecting it, do you know what I mean, and you putting it into that work drive and just effectively beating yourself up mentally to be better, and why are you not better, or why are you not this lean? And it's exactly the same as like so many people don't ever swallow their weight loss journey. And what I mean by that, it just seems quite I guess ironic, is they don't say to themselves, do you know what, I've lost all of this weight where I did feel and look and behave very differently to how I am now, but yet you don't do any of the mental work to be able to uncover that. And sometimes, and I say majority of the time here, unless you are really quite cutthroat with yourself and you're like, do you know what, I really am quite fat, do you know what I mean? I've really eaten too many biscuits. You fully just say to yourself, you are the fucking problem, you're going to sort it out. That's quite a few people. But the other lot who tend to have gained weight due to emotional reasons, or things have changed or whatever, like, you are holding like a lot of issues there. And I can tell you that because I went through years of therapy. You're holding a lot of issues to be in the position in which you are in.
And sometimes I guess when you lose weight and
it's almost like that dissolves it, but it doesn't.
And then you kind of, like most people, when you have a big goal and you work towards that, and when you finish it, if you don't feel exactly, if you don't have a profound change in perspective, you're like, oh, I've lost weight, but I still feel shit about myself. Do you know what I mean?
I was still buying, like, when I'd like lost like a huge amount of weight, I was still buying clothes that were like fucking like the extra larges, or like the size 16, 18, you know what I mean? And they were like falling completely off of me, but I was still like, fuck, I'm like that. Like, I'm still fat. And it's one of these things where if I hadn't done the mental work, and I would say that, hand on my heart, that I'm still really critical of never being back in that position on myself. It's not on anybody else. I'm really passionate about helping people get through this and actually understanding the full picture, not just the weight loss, I deal with it on a day-to-day basis with our clients. It's just saying to them, you need to put the work in mentally, because otherwise you're going to as I always say, fuck yourself in the arse somehow, you know? And so I do think you just got to, I guess, uncover like those times as to why do you feel like you need to go and buy clothes that are 2 times, 3 times the size, you know what I mean? Is it because I don't think it's normal, do you know what I mean? But I'm still really critical of myself, what other people would view me as like, because it's heightened due to our industry. Like, like God forbid you shouldn't show something or other, you know what I mean? To be something.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, I don't think many people are cutthroat with themselves. I think I've only met probably like a couple
Some
of women
people
who
are,
are like
because I
quite
guess-
jokes, and they're just like, do you know what, I'm just really overweight.
Well,
or
I
it's
guess
just my
obviously
biscuit eating.
some people, obviously, when they seek our help or anybody's help, I guess that is a variation of addressing the problem. Whether you are cutthroat, that's a different
No,
conversation.
but I mean, like
but
some
I guess,
people are cutthroat with themselves to be like, do you know what, I'm fat because I eat too much. Do you know what I mean? That is like 10%. 90% of people can't or don't want to really
90%
understand
are.
why they are the way that they are. Because it's horrible. Do you know what I mean? Like, but once you've stomached it and you understood.
Maybe people are not slightly embarrassed because, like, whenever I used to do consultations, and still not so much now, but the face-to-face nutritional consultations, and people will explain to you.
Oh yeah, of
You
course.
know, I
And
eat
also it
oatmeal
depends
in
like
the
if you're a man and
morning,
a woman, and like
and
a man
then I have
stood there.
a chicken salad, and then I have chicken and rice for dinner. I'm like, you're also 75% body fat, so.
Yeah, but that's incredibly judgmental. You wondered why they sat there not telling you the truth.
No, I know
like
that, but the
fucking
reality,
that.
there's also, there's reality as well that you need to
No, I
take into
think,
consideration.
as I always say, like when you manage somebody's nutritional intake, never ask them to be honest with you to start off with. Like, don't ask them like to write a food diary. They're gonna fucking lie. It's like I did it. Like
No,
just before my
obviously,
PT
I know,
session, I had to fill in my whole week.
that's-
What did I eat?
But
Apples.
that's the whole point of what we're talking about in the first place. It's like, addressing it in that sort of way, you're never going to get an honest answer. So it's like people being cutthroat with themselves is very rare.
And I think, like, look, if
come
you're
by.
like, you've spoken to someone who's a professional, you know what I mean? And they're like, right, this is the strategy that's going to work going forward. Now, I really appreciate that there's many people out there selling and fucking complete cuckoo to most people in whether it's fucking nutrition, gut health, supplements, you name it. There's people selling shit to you. And I appreciate that is now more than ever because of the amount of connections we have everywhere on social media or in the news or on email lists or whatever. People are selling to you. They're wanting you to buy into their methodology of some degree or another. But I think if you're going to a professional for help, like, I guess you've got to differentiate between that person consulting with you, you know what I mean, and saying, actually, this strategy, this is how it's going to work, and I'm going to talk you through exactly why, to somebody that's like, okay, so yeah, you've definitely got a problem, and I think the only answer for that is really if you need to get your bloods done to see what you're intolerant to. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's when you're like, okay, cool, but is that going to like get like my 40 kilos of body weight off me, or is that just
Well,
me
according
doing,
to
I'm
some
allergic
people,
to
it will though.
cashews?
No, but some people would say to you that it would
What, like a
depend
DNA
on
test? I
their.
can't eat that. I can't eat
Well,
carrots because my
old
mum's
matey
fucking
boy would say
intolerant.
that your gut biome is misaligned. That's why you can't lose weight, and you've got to realign your gut biome before you can start losing weight.
Yeah, and as I said, cuckoo. Because at the end of the day, gut health is like, if you sleep bad, your gut health's going to be off. If you eat shit diet, your gut health's going to be off. If you take a load of random shit, you drink alcohol, your gut health's all over the place. If you're overweight, your gut health's not great. What gets better is when you're more consistent. If you're consistent with anything, you know what I mean? It's either going to go one way or the other way. You could be consistent of just overeating and you'll pile on a load of weight. Or you could just be consistent of being adherent to something and you'll probably see the progress you want. The reality is that people always think that like it's aligned to a product or a meal plan or a this and a that. And it's like, it doesn't work like that. You've not shown me that you can be any kind of adherent to anything.
I guess there's also a certain narrative within the industry currently where it kind of promotes people to not be consistent where, I guess, I don't want to say we're guilty of it, but like, what happens when, let's say, for example, you promote budgeting your calories, for example, so one day you have less, the next day you have more. You know what I mean? That is a narrative that also gets pushed around the industry, that some people will literally take like, okay, well, I'm gonna eat 1,500 calories Monday to Friday and then go absolutely bananas on the weekend.
But this is the problem is that,
But
again,
then essentially,
this is lack
that is
of
the
fucking
narrative.
understanding. This
The
is lack of
narrative that has
understanding.
been driven. We've done posts on budgeting calories. Everyone's done that is to a certain degree evidence based. Has done a post on budgeting calories. So why is
Because
why
this is
is
no,
that,
I don't agree with that, because
why is
I agree
that
with
not
highlighting
necessarily
topics.
the most progressive way of thinking about it?
Well, no, because I think as I just said, you must understand more. You can't, fuck's sake, we really are just a generation of people that just read shit and believe it. Do you know what I mean? It's honestly worrying. Yeah, that's right. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's right. Oh, seek some more information. Yeah, that's right. No, that's wrong. I don't like that. It doesn't fit me. No, that's right. And the reality is that there's so much context to this. What do people want us to fucking put out there? How, when you are adherent, you can do this shit if you are experienced enough, in which we've always relayed that. When people ask me at the start, so I'm thinking, if I just, maybe I can just budget. I'm like, no, because you've got no understanding of what you're following on a day-to-day basis as it is. Yeah. Stop messing with the numbers and making the maths harder for yourself, because what happens, I find, and again, it's context, if you learned more, you'd understand more. Do you know what I mean? You can't take your body weight or your health so fucking literally. Do you know what I mean? You've got to actually look at it and go, well, I'm not even tracking calories as it is. Do you know what I mean? So why would this even be relevant to me? It's not. Great, move on. Yeah. The same with, okay, actually, I do track my calories. I'm not very consistent with it though. Maybe you shouldn't be taking on board budgeting calories if you're not very consistent overall.
So what you're saying is there's obviously context, and depending on your level of experience and application is when you can then start to manipulate that within common sense.
Look, our jobs is about covering everything really, in the sense of health and well-being in general. So the way you move your body, the way that you sit, stand, walk, the way that you fucking feed yourself, that is our entire job, okay? And so you've got to be able to help as many people as you can in a social platform sense, especially when you have tens of thousands of followers, okay? There is difference between speaking directly at people or just trying to educate people overall. And I personally probably wouldn't really be going down the route now, because I've seen how people's psychology works with information and how they take it quite literally, and I probably would be more careful of how we would talk about budgeting calories. Not to say that all of the information you put out is not listed exactly how your calories are set up, that you would need to be adherent, and that budgeting calories doesn't mean I'm just going to guess, do you know what I mean? Because that's all just all over the place. Budgeting calories means you're actually still counting them, do you know what I mean? You're still tracking those numbers. Yeah. You're not just aimlessly, okay, well, I've just guessed that. That's another 50 calories, that's 100. But, at the end of the day, if you're... it's too complex. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be able to give yourself that steady baseline to even be in the position for you to be manipulating these calories. Just give yourself what your body should be having on a day-to-day basis before you start fucking with anything, because that's just not setting up for any kind of habit tracking. Now, it does help when it comes to a socialising aspect, and we work with a number of working professionals who have busy work lives, so they're having to go out for work dinners, they don't want to look like they're on a fucking diet or something weird, do you know what I mean, and they want to be able to pick and choose, but their expectation then needs to be matched to what the process is going on here. And I always say this, is that if your expectation is to get that ultimate result that you're after, then you're going to have to sacrifice that shit.
Especially if you've never gotten in that shape in the first place. If you've never achieved that level of peak physique, then why are your assumptions that you're not going to have to do something extraordinary to obtain that?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say like,
Do you know what I mean?
like what is the peak? Because the peak could be like 3% body fat, freezing
no,
cold.
no,
in
no,
hospital
no.
for 3
That's not
weeks
the
after
peak, though.
bodybuilding.
We've just discussed that. That is not the peak. That is just
The
everyone's
ultimate
misconception. The peak for somebody is depends on the context of that individual. Like my peak is different to somebody else's peak. Do you know what I mean? Is different to somebody else's peak, but it's all relative in everyone's personal journey. If you want to get in the best shape, in your best shape, being the most physically capable, most muscular, having the most optimal level of body fat, feeling the most confident, and you've never achieved that result in the first place, what makes you assume that you can have your cake and eat it, and that you're not going to have to put in an extraordinary, in context to your own abilities, amount of effort and application and sacrifice?
But I actually think that when people set out a goal like being in the peak shape of their life, that they're not actually mimicking off themselves, they're mimicking off somebody else. I think they've seen a physique in which they like, and they try and mimic as close as they possibly can to be able to get that. So they're never even seeing it on themselves. They're seeing it on somebody else that lives a complete different lifestyle. So
Maybe
no,
not peak, but I'm just saying like better or more optimal. Do you know what I mean?
Like being brutally honest, I had to sacrifice friend groups, numerous 2 years of my fucking life. Do you know what I mean? As I grow, you know, like prime time of my life. Actually, longer than that, I fucking sacrificed. Do you know what I mean? Where I knuckled down and got this shit done. Do you know what I mean? I built habits that have stayed with me till today. Do you know what I mean? I'm only in the position I am in today because I put in the fucking work for it. And I'm so tired of so many people saying to me, how did you get, you know, because I worked really fucking hard, and you could do the same, but you're just lazy. And I'm sorry, like, you know, if you are making excuses for yourself, like I got told when I went to the doctors and I was pretty much like on the borderline of becoming diabetic, they said to me, you know, you could also have PCOS. If I had taken that quite literally, okay, I would have milked myself in my PCOS life. I would have told myself it was too hard for me to lose weight. Can't have any carbs. I'm insulin resistant. I can't do any of that. And I would have made all the fucking excuses to why I couldn't make any progress. I didn't do that. I was like, actually, that's a fucking wake-up call. I don't want to be putting myself into medical shit here. Do you know what I mean? My whole family's medical on my mum's side. I don't want to be like on the surgery table or in there with tests every fucking month, injecting myself on a day-to-day basis. I don't want that, but I'm about to do it to myself if I don't do something about it. I'm not going to create any kind of excuse for it. But did I lose like 2 years of my life? No, I gained like a fuck ton. Like I gained life.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like it is one of these things where it is perspective. Like at the time, it's not nice. I took myself to places where they were like institutions. I took myself to so many places so I would be away from, I guess, trying to, you know, take myself away from the environment that wasn't progressing me to get me into the position where I was. And I just couldn't advise it more to people. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it. I'm sorry. Like, you can't go and expect that if you've got a huge amount of body weight on you, that you're desperate, like your health is declining and you're noticing it more and more.
Or you just like, oh, I'm just going to be, I'm going to, 4 days this week, I'm going to be somewhat adherent, and then the other 3 days it's just whatever.
Yeah, I deserve
it's just not, it's not going to happen that way, especially if you've got lots of weight and excess amounts of body fat and dealing with numerous physical and mental blocks. It's just not going to happen, and it just facilitates this narrative that we hear on a consistent basis that there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you.
Oh my God, so much. And that's just you
there
talk
is
about
nothing
this.
wrong with
Because
you. That's well, there might be, but like up until you know, you've been diagnosed with a blood test or you've spoken to a professional. It's not self-diagnosing yourself on Google and all this other nonsense. The reality is and it's a very confrontational thing to come to the realization that the vast majority of the time is it's just you yourself are the biggest issue and the biggest hurdle.
But I also think you've got to be careful
you know,
as
you
to
can
what professional you go
you
to.
can just consistently make excuses, and that's the you know, everyone's got an excuse these days, whether it's it's my birthday
No, but Mark, go
it's
to
my
a
birthday
GP.
this week, so I'm just not going to adhere to any targets whatsoever because I have one day. Do you know what I mean? So that's an excuse. Oh, I was sick. That's an excuse.
Yeah, but,
You know, there's
but you,
within
you,
context,
you can be
but
ill,
there's
but it's also that thing of
No,
like, what
I
makes
get
you
that.
feel better? But I think
Yeah.
actually,
Well, I feel sad, so
But if you
today
went to a GP,
I'm not
Mark,
going
I
to
would-
do anything about it. Do you know what I mean? I feel sad today, so I'm not gonna fulfill my self-care habits. And then what, like you said, what do you think is going to make you feel better?
Yes, but this is where the love of the process can really be. If you've never discovered it, then obviously you're going to hate
No, of
upon it.
course. No,
Just the
I
same
get
as
that.
like when you see people going to the gym, it's like, where are you fucking going? Like I wanted to do a podcast on this. Like people just rush through things and expect the result. You know, it's the same thing. But I think you've got to be very careful of what professionals you go to for this. Like when you go to I went to a GP where they told me and handed me, they said, have you heard of these two diets? Fasting and keto. Off you go. Do you know what I mean? That's what they do.
But I
because
guess
they've got no
I
understanding
know.
of dietary
I know,
or
but it's
the
not-
person's environment. And that's a problem.
Yeah, but if
because
under-
then those excuses are put in
But
where it's
under
like, well, I
those-
can't follow keto, so I can't lose any weight. But if you're really not aware of how to lose weight,
But if that's the case, then what you're trying to say is that we're all destined. Well, the vast majority of the general population is destined to just consistently allow their health and their own physical and mental well-being to get worse because the narratives that are being given out to people are reductive by nature.
no, but this has been the fucking problem since the day I was
But how are we
born.
meant to get anywhere if a GP's
They need to learn
offering
more,
you?
just like they had to do with menopause. Like half GPs had no idea what
Do you
menopause
think
half
that if you
was
sat down
for
with a
women, in
GP and
sense.
said to them, I think you need to learn more, they would be open to that narrative? Would they just
I
be
think
like,
that just as everything else progresses in this, no, Mark, don't speak for everybody. I think
No, I'm
a
just
lot of
asking
people
you.
in the UK, and I can only talk for the UK alone because we live here currently, I would say that a lot of GPs have they've done a lot of more courses and in-depth work with stuff like menopause, for example,
Yeah.
which was not spoken about at all. And women of every middle age were going through complete traumatic times and nobody was hearing them. They were just finding other problems and nobody was going, actually, that's because you're menopausal. Let's talk about it. How
Yeah.
can we help you? Here's some
Yes.
fucking hormones. Like, here's how we're going to help you.
yeah.
That has only happened literally in the last 3 years at max. So I do believe, just like everything progresses, just like technology progresses or social media progresses or jobs progress, that actually, yes, we are a different population now than we were 50 years ago.
Yeah, but you've got
so.
a doctor who says that calories aren't even a thing. So, and the only way that you can
You
lose
don't
weight
go
is
to a
by
doctor. The problem is that people go to
by-
the doctor because they think they've got an issue.
jigging your gut biome. So,
No, but
do you know what I
but
mean?
Mark,
how
there
do
are
you...
doctors like that, but I don't think, being honest with you, unless
Yeah.
it's a nutritionist or a doctor in physiology, in the sense of somebody who knows how to move properly,
Yeah.
I don't really believe that the doctor's the right person to go to when you have got a weight issue. It's
Sure.
like the last
No, I
person I'd be
appreciate it.
going to. The problem is when you're overweight and you haven't done that whole fuck I'm fat, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you're struggling to come to terms with it. All that happens is you find that you've got a problem, that you have an issue that needs to be fixed. And who do you go to when there's an issue or you don't feel well or you don't have any energy? You go to the doctor. And first of all, I don't really think we should be wasting the NHS's time on this. We should be having more professionals that are weight management fucking experts. I'm qualified enough to take on people from the NHS. Problem is that you get past these people with minimal background and it's yeah, it's hard. It's a much harder demographic to work with because you're always in terms of this sort of medical sync to it. And I don't believe that you will have medical problems if you carry huge amounts of body weight for the whole of your life. But you don't necessarily have any medical problems if you address it. So why are we linking always medical and fat loss or weight loss, together? Because I don't believe that's two things that go hand in hand, unless you are on the epitome of the scale. I'm talking obese, clinically obese,
Yeah.
on the verge of like needing a gastric band. There's
Yeah,
no other way
gastric
out.
band,
Like
yeah.
that is, and that is not everybody.
No.
But if you see your life progressively and the quality of life decreasing due to your weight and how you move, maybe you can't even pick the kids up, you can't run after them, you can't do any of that.
Yeah.
Then you might not have anything medically wrong with you at all. You've just got body weight on you that might need to be lost or maintained. You know what I mean? But the point of the matter is that it's not medical. You're not ill. Nobody's ill that's got fat on them. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, we've got body fat on us. I'm not
Yeah.
ill. Do you know what I mean? In fact, we need body fat on us to sustain life.
Yeah,
just
optimal
in
amounts, yeah.
just within balance. Do you know what I mean? And within reason. But there is that thing. It's like, we're not ill because we're fat. Do you know what I mean? We're not ill. We might have mental things that trigger us. Doesn't mean that we're ill. There's problems. These can be easily addressed with the right people. And I've always said this, like, there needs to be more people specialised in this that take the weight away from people like the GPs and stuff like that, who might not be pushing them in the right direction, or might be saying to you that you're insulin resistant, you need to do all of this. And, you know, for most people who are overweight and they're told certain things like this, they have no idea what to do. None.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I've got this and that,
Your blood sugar's too high.
and I've got no idea what to do. And I'll talk about this because one of my clients' husbands, who's you could kind of describe as like a slim guy, do you know what I mean? Not much muscle mass, like, you know, so just an average guy, you know what I mean? No, you wouldn't look at him and go, oh, you know, you've got to lose some weight, or, you know, he's just a slim guy. Okay?
Yeah, just like a guy that has an office job.
Yes, and just work. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Somebody likes to exercise, bit of cycling, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nothing that's, you know, you're not walking on stage, but it's just fine, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he is somebody who, I guess my client had no idea what was all going on, but he bought into technically an app or a methodology which was all about, and let's just fucking throw it under the bus, do you know what I mean? The Zoe app, okay, all about lowering blood glucose levels, fucking lowering your blood fat, like all of this stuff
Yeah.
where you're meant to track it on a device and you've got to take your blood sugar, and it's all about your blood sugar. How do you react to what you've just eaten and the fact it's
Yeah.
spiked your glucose, just like every fucking food does, okay? What's happened here is effectively it started a mental issue with my client's husband because he's so obsessed. Remember, this guy's a financial analyst, okay? He's so obsessed with getting his glucose level lower or lower blood, you know, fat levels or whatever, that he's now started taking the weight loss injection, which is obviously Ozempic, which is effectively it's God, this is for another day, but it
Reduces your blood
reduces
sugar
your blood
levels
sugar.
by
Yes.
artificially stimulating your pancreas to produce more insulin.
So it does what he wants to happen on his app when he tracks his budget.
Yeah.
So he started taking this. He's lost 4 pounds in a month, okay, which you could have done easily, probably within a week, or just having a poo, do you know what I mean, from doing, like, if you tracked anything like that. And now he's manically linked to the fact that if his blood sugar's low enough and his glucose level is low enough and it's read the right way, that he's going to see his progress. And my client was like, it's almost started like an eating disorder, because he's now manically obsessed with lowering these things and targets and all that. And the people that are running these apps have no understanding what it's doing to people below who are buying into it, because it's actually having this horrific, like, disordered approach to, I can't do anything just in case.
There's
Do you know
no
what I mean?
accountability, and that was the same when everybody went on that clean eating wagon where, God forbid, you'd have a bread roll and everyone was eating cauliflower rice, and the reason why everyone was so shredded was everything had to be clean and sugar-free and, you know, all this other nonsense.
I mean,
And
here's
all
a
that
date
did,
again,
and
do you
all
know?
that did was just drive a demonization of food groups and it's exactly the same thing by, you know,
But it's also the assumption that if you inject yourself with something,
grandizing, you know, reducing your blood sugar levels, but then also strategically getting you to take the measurements when there are always potentially going to be obscured levels for whatever reason. Do you know what I mean? And it's just because there's no accountability, and people are like that woman's husband, who's now, you know, fixated and will do absolutely anything, whether over the counter or under the counter, from unreputable websites, just to manage his blood sugar levels, having absolutely zero understanding on what introducing androgynous things into your body to manipulate your hormones. You know, do you think Tim Spector gives a fuck? No, he's just sat there laughing all the way to the bank, telling people that they need to eat metabolic muffins. Come on.
Yeah, but I mean,
It's
the problem
ridiculous.
is that Tim Spector used to
Because
be the
all
COVID guy, and now he's stuck to fucking weight
but he
loss
does.
'cause he knows
These
it's
people
money.
do not coach people. Hi, how are you doing on a day-to-day basis? It's just promoting an ideology that has no accountability to the actual end user on a day-to-day basis.
This should not be allowed.
You know what I mean?
So many people, I know, like,
But you
Stephen
hide
Bartlett's
behind,
just
yeah. But
fucking
he
invested,
hides,
like-
but like, much like, you know, we've had this conversation with both of our parents and people of an older generation. Well, you need to have all the letters in front of your name because you need to blah blah blah. And this dude's just waltzed in. He's cherry picked. He's an epidemiologist. With at the end of the day, if you just look at epidemiologists across any spectre, one's telling you that vegetables is going to give you cancer and that you need to eat a carnivore diet. One's telling you that a ketogenic diet is the best thing since sliced bread, and if you were to have a carbohydrate, you're going to get cancer. One epidemiologist is telling you to eat raw food, and that if you cooked any food, it's all these quacks that hide behind the fact that just because somebody's gone to university and got a degree doesn't mean that they have common sense.
Yeah, so little.
And do you know what I mean? You package
with,
up
like,
a nice little box and you get
sell a
Stephen.
book, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
but
a
you
good
get
start.
Stephen Bartlett to prick his finger and make him feel good about himself, and then he's going to give you $2.5 million.
Because Stephen Bartlett's a multi-millionaire who has the lifestyle and the fucking availability to be feeling good most of the time. Do you know what I mean? He can have a trainer. He can fucking have all of this. Who bloody knows? But now you've been sold into it because this guy, all he's done, and hats off, it's consistency of some degree.
No, it is.
He's now got... It's just worrying that the hands of... It's like apps like Noom. Like, I'm not really... Now, this is quite controversial. I'm not really against weight loss groups like Weight Watchers, Slimming World. Now, I tell you why. Because they do have a level of accountability. Now, I know what Slimming World and their sins and stuff, it's too much restriction and some of it's inaccurate because obviously it's like smashed bananas a sin and bananas not a sin and all of this stuff. It's a little bit confusing because it's a point system of some degree. But actually, most of these clubs or weight loss clubs actually do have, you know what it was like, fat fighters on Little Britain. You know what I mean? When they all get together in a village hall. But they do have that, and that helps.
Yeah, and then they all go for a coffee after.
Yeah, they all
It's
have
in
a
a cake,
biscuit.
coffee and a cake
But
afterwards.
you're meeting people who are all on the same journey. Most of the time, when you have embarked on something like Weight Watchers or on Slimming World, you do have a lot of body weight to lose. That's the statistics. And they have changed their principles to match a little bit like calorie counting. They have
changed,
now. They literally like, please count your calories, but we're still going to put green and red foods. Like, do you know what I mean? But again, maybe that's the good way. I know it sounds really weird. Maybe that's the easiest way to educate people on food. Maybe we do need to separate them into categories as to what you should be eating on a day-to-day basis to fool yourself, what you definitely can have, but you probably just need to moderate slightly. Do you know what I mean? And actually, maybe that's the easiest way for people to learn nutrition. So I'm actually not against these clubs. I do think that they did for a period of time, and I think still do, set quite low targets for these people.
Sure.
But they're not taking into account quite a lot of things that we would take into account as professionals, which would be energy output, how they strength train, what they weigh. And majority of the people that go to these clubs, and this is actually factually correct, are doing it literally just to lose weight. Now, I'm not for just losing weight because you end up like a sack with no muscle mass, but it's just trying to get that body weight steadily down, shall I say.
I guess it's also generational in the sense that the vast majority of people on Weight Watchers and Slimming World, you would say that the demographic is generally a little bit older. That is
Actually, I disagree with that.
Would you?
Yeah, Slimming World, I'd say, is actually, and you can tell that, but there's so many. Like,
Well, I guess
social
there
media
has been a
knows
popular
younger.
rise in strength training and stuff like that, and I feel like it is becoming a little bit more mainstream for you to kind of go to the gym and lift weights or
I
do
think if you're very overweight and you
Pilates
want
or
somebody
yoga or
else
something
on the
along
journey
those
with you
lines.
of some degree, and you can't necessarily afford having a personal coach, or you know what I mean, I actually think that that level of community can bring people together on their weight loss
without a
journey, and it
doubt.
can really help.
Without a
Now, do
doubt.
I know, and literally know, that the long-term effects of these clubs, you know, in recent years, I wouldn't say the most recent years, but in the last 10 to 15 years, statistically, they have quite a low success rate on the maintenance of this fat loss. But I do think with the amount that we have now available, and that they have got more experts on board, I have seen like that they're going to give out more information probably around nutrition and how you maintain weight loss, and probably they are giving out some relevant information for people to do it now. But, you know, if you look at something like The Biggest Loser, like all those people that lost all that weight,
But it was
because
like,
it's so extreme.
yeah, I mean,
and I think for some parts, Slimming World Weight Watchers
You're
was very
taking,
extreme as
you're
well.
taking
for some
people
women.
that were like doing 300 steps a day and making them run on treadmills and training them for like
Just
5
shouting in their
hours and
face,
screaming
do you know
at
what I mean?
them and
Like,
stuff
so
like that,
rude.
removing them from the environment that got them into that position in the first place. And
I'm not
do you know what I
against
mean?
removing
Like
people
at the end
from
of the
their
day, if you
environment,
just
though.
took anybody like, you know, those television like Bear Grylls or something, you take somebody, put them on a deserted island, they'll lose weight. It's not rocket
It's
science.
not that fucking extreme. Do you know what I mean?
No,
What's
but
Bear
I'm just
Grylls
saying,
drinks
it's just
piss
like
and
if you
gets on
took,
with
if you take and remove somebody out of their environment altogether and place them in something completely foreign that you have control over, obviously they're going to lose weight. And
But I don't think that's anything wrong with that. I actually
no,
think
not at all.
sometimes your environment is such a fighting factor that you just physically just unable. Like we've coached multiple people where like their environment is just never going to be optimal. Like it's just not
and their
optimal.
lifestyle choices aren't either. But like, oh, I need to lose 20 kilos, but I have to eat out 4 times a
No,
week.
I'm not talking like that. I'm talking about those that I actually think their environment is like, you know, their partner's
their
not fucking on
partner
board.
or their work
family are
environment.
feeding them. That you know, that they don't have control over what's bought in the fridge, or you know, all of these things where environment does come into play. I actually think sometimes removing yourself from that, seeing clarity and doing it in the best way, actually one of the best things you could probably do.
Yeah.
I'm
But
not
then
saying
how
that-
do you address the environmental?
Education. When you go back to your environment.
But then it comes down to willpower, though, don't you think?
No, it comes down to, do you like what you fucking feel like right now, or do you want to be back over being overweight?
But then what
do you-
happens if you have somebody that tries to influence you?
As I said, stop being so fucking gullible. Like, I'm sorry. Like, come on. You cannot read things literally these days. Like, we're also like anti-influencers posting like a beauty filter, and it's like exactly the same for everybody's life. Do you know what I mean? It's all filtered to some degree or another. It's all glorified. It all looks so much better than it actually fucking is, you know? And working with people where you see that side of vulnerability, you start to know, do you know what I mean? Okay, well, actually, that influencer life's really not that great. Do you know what I mean? Like, it looks great, but it's not necessarily what you want to be living on a day in, day out.
No.
And I think if you are somebody that gets easily influenced, then realise, otherwise not many people can help you. Like, I don't think, I find that we are a generation, like, God help the younger generation. Just, I speak to so many people where it's like, do you follow this person? I've seen this recipe. Have you done the work? And I'm like, fucking hell, do you even know any one of these? Like, this is weird. It is weird that we're also like fantasized by being influenced by others. Do you know how much money
Somebody
we
will
would
say
save as a
to
generation
you,
if
somebody
we didn't
will say
spend
to
it
you,
all
I
the
don't
time?
have time to meal prep or do anything like that, but they spend 8 hours on social media a day.
Yeah, that's also. But also, I don't. It's one of these things that we're now like addicted to it. Like our brains are so formed to it. It's like you can't imagine without.
I think
it.
now it's. I was listening, reading, as I do because I'm quite sad. I was reading a psychological paper, scientific study based on the psychology of social media and its impact on men and their perceptions of relationships by constantly being fed overly sexualized images on social media on a consistent basis, and how it is having such a profound impact on society, whether it's holding a relationship or finding value in your relationship, finding value in your partner.
Well,
But
like Emma, who's my sister,
consistently,
did like
it's just we don't even know the impact it's having on us, whether it's a conscious or subconscious, by constantly downloading all this fictitious information on whether
it's not just that. Like women, for example, have now got like porn and like OnlyFans and like explicit like people. Do you know how many people have said to me throughout like me just even filming throughout my whole life is like you're quite conservative in what you wear? Because I'm like, yeah, because I do actually dress like that on a day-to-day basis because I don't want to pick up fucking germs from like a rusty fucking gym. Do you know what I mean? All these cretins sweating all over the place. I'm just really comfortable wearing this. Do you know what I mean? Half the time I'm not very tan, so like why would I wear a sports bra? I'll only wear a sports bra when I feel tanned. Do you know what I mean? Not pale and fucking pasty in UK winter. Like let's be realistic. Like wearing like bright pink in the gym. Like really? Like nobody does that. But it is that whole thing of like women as well. Like we always see these girls that are like doing really well, like succeeding at OnlyFans. Some of them are absolutely gross, like to every degree, like in what they do. But I'm talking about the beauty image of it, and like the need for like fillers and like Botox, and I have Botox, so I'm not gonna fucking lie about this. But would I have started? I don't know, like. A lot of my clients had it. I train really hard, so my face is used quite a lot, and I talk a lot, obviously, and so I did feel like I wanted just a little bit of a little bit of a top up, a little bit of a refresh, and I love it.
Stiffness.
I don't do things because I'm influenced off it, but how many girls have done it? Like lip fillers, fucking dermal fillers. They come out looking like a clown, do you know what I mean? Then they've got it dissolved, and in the process, it's just become like this whole epitome of like what we're meant to look like. And now there's the opposite. It's like, oh, I'm not going to put a filter on me because I'm natural. Do you know what I mean? It's like, fuck, please do. Do you know what I mean? Nobody wants that.
But I guess it's...
You know what I mean? It's like opposites. It used to be like heavily edited, airbrushed, and now it's like, let's just be fucking real, which is great, but it's also not real. It's not real.
That, though.
No, but it's not real still. We're all still doing things. Nobody's really uploading the photo that they like. They're uploading the best of the bunch. Do you know what I mean?
Best of the worst to be relevant.
But for women in sex and stuff, like in relationships, like I'm very much certain, like
everything
we're married,
is over sexualized, even within the industry, where if someone's doing a exercise tutorial, but it's like you can see what they ate for breakfast, and everything is completely over sexualized, and it's having such a negative impact, not on, it's just the environment in general, because there's expectations,
like what you should be looking like, what you should be doing, why
there's
you're
a
not
lot
doing
of, and it's
something.
just it's just really, it's profound to see that 50% of women the age of 30 in the Western world are not going to be married or have children.
Fucking God, do you know what it's like to have children and be married?
and there's like a reduction and a degradation in relationships.
But now actually, let's bring in the influence,
especially from a man's perspective, where the over sexualization of social media and the increase of availability of pornography and stuff is literally like frying men's brains.
Oh, is it fried yours then? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't feel the need or the necessity to watch
But like women's sexual side is like, vibrators are now more of a thing than fucking ever. And I just still think it's something that I think it's great that we all finger bash ourselves. Do you know what I mean? But like, please, now I'm just imagining shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't say that. Why do we need to know? I find it still a very private thing. I find it like sex between people.
Because at the end of the day, it was also
like,
just being monetized by brands. They
get paid for it.
Market research, and then they realize that certain people have a certain resonance with a certain demographic, and then they approach them and say, would you like 20 grand for you to just go on and say that you flick your bean with this vibrator? And what did they all do?
I genuinely don't believe that. I genuinely believe some people are so empowered.
The vast majority of them were like, I fucking sell advertising space for crumpets. Give me a vibrator, please.
Yeah, but Mark,
Do you know what I mean?
the point is the fact that some girls, women, I'm
Yeah,
not,
no,
I'm
they
not
are,
against
and
this
like I'm
because
not
I actually
against
feel
it.
like
It's
most
like-
men cannot give a woman an orgasm. There we go. But the reality is that women should feel their sexual needs are fulfilled. And I would say that having looked into this and I've read stuff about, like, in the sense of how women, I guess, feel sexually when they do pleasure themselves, do you know what I mean? They feel great, do you know what I mean? And most of the time they've never experienced that with a man. But there was a whole argument as to, like, if we carry on doing this, is it going to take away from
I
a
don't
man's
think so.
position in a relationship? No, but this is an honest conversation. Like, if you're having
Well, I
a
get
better
it,
fucking
maybe.
orgasm from your toys, do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Why do I need a man? Do you know what I mean? And then you wonder, well, it's not wondering. The reason why people are still single and fucking inept at the moment and hating their life due to it. Like, I've spoken to loads of people I know are single at this age and they don't like it. And they know the reasons why. They're like, how the fuck do I meet anybody? And I totally agree with this. You either got the cretins on Tinder who are like the last of the bunch. That app's been running for too long. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, on Tinder, it's a fucking go unless you're like the 1%. So then you've got
Smash and
weird
pass.
apps like Happen where you follow people around just in the hope that maybe they'll turn around and see you. I don't know, that's weird. Do you know what I mean? Also, really weird. That's like a stalker. And then all this normal conversation, like men are obliterated for approaching a woman. Women are too fucking up their own arse half the time. Now, I'm not saying that please don't take this in the sense of all of the sexual abuse and all that. I'm just saying in terms of the fact that we think that why is that man not wolf whistled at me now? Do you know what I mean? Or, oh, you wolf whistled, you're a creep. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not for the way that women are treated in public. Like, I've dealt with it firsthand. It makes you feel really uncomfortable. Like, it really does. But any step a man takes now is like, oh, no, that's wrong. Red flag. No, the man's going to rape you. Do you know what I mean? He's going to rape you. The guy's just come up and said, hey, like, you look nice.
really
That's
pretty.
how you used to
Yeah,
meet. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
You used to,
just
like, my grandparents like
shoot
met
your
at like
shot.
a Jewish social. Like my grandpa, like Peter and Pam, they met at like salsa dancing. Do you know what I mean? Nobody does that anymore because guess what? We're all on fucking TikTok. Do you know what I mean? We're all on TikTok. So where are we meant to be meeting people that aren't the same local crowd who the cretins
When you
out
go
of the group?
out,
You're like,
if
no,
you're
thank
single, you go out to a bar or a nightclub.
Yes,
or...
but what happens when a man approaches a woman in a nightclub? All creep. Do you know what I mean? So how are you meant to feel comfortable?
You go there, you say, hello, it's nice to meet you. Before you shout to me, I would like to have a consensual conversation with you.
Yeah, and then they go to
Do
you,
you
a bit
mind?
weird. Do you know what I mean? Do you want to sign a form? Do you know what I mean? Whilst
yeah,
I'm-
and then before you do any form of kissing or heavy petting, you get your documents squared away and then you...
But I also think that like men are incredibly vulnerable in these situations because now women know that like
I
men are
think
meant to pay for shit. Do you know what I mean? And so this is where it's also gone wrong. Like, are you an escort or are you not? I don't even know. Do you know what I mean? Like, so a lot of women like will entice a guy. Like, to be honest with you, I've fucking done this. When you don't have any money or you're just a bit of a cretin as a student or whatever, and somebody chats you obviously want a free drink, but then obviously you really don't want to entertain the conversation. So you make the guy fucking bankrupt buying you a Red Bull and vodka, and then you fucking turn your back and you're like, sorry, I've got a boyfriend.
Dudes actually buy you drinks.
Fuck off, you prick. Let's start on my single
Shame.
life.
I feel
shall
really
we?
sad for men here if you feel obliged.
But also, when would you said to me you'd never go up to a woman in a bar?
Never.
Yes, because you're socially retarded. I'm joking. But it's also, would you not feel, look at you, go all weird, you look at me in the eyes, you're like, oh God, I'm a bit nervous now.
No, a woman approached me. It's pretty obvious.
God, you have...
I'm being
You've been
honest.
in relationships like all of your
Yeah,
life.
no.
You've like not had like a real break, do you know what I mean? At all.
Yeah, I have.
You've literally jumped from one relationship to the next, don't.
Yeah.
Realistically. Like, you told me you weren't really, now this could be complete bullshit.
Well, yes.
You weren't really like the one night stand kind of person.
No, not really.
Not really. I love this. Not really.
Not really.
But
no.
I think like, You've always got to try before you buy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you've always got to test the goods, make sure that they can
I would
withstand.
say your ex-girlfriends are worth.
They can withstand the pressure.
Withstand. Do you know what I mean? And this is why you get the image. Withstand the pressure of what? Exactly. It's not that hard. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you speak about yourself. Like, this is also a problem, actually. Why men are too egotistical. Like, they really are. Some men
they
that
are.
chat you up, just go. No,
You're like, mate, what planet are you actually from?
There's a guy in the gym that like smells so bad. Do you know what I mean? Always tries to talk to me. I'm like, until you've used a washing machine, please do not go in the proximity of at least 100 meters of me. And that's not me, but it's just because you smell horrible. Like literally, like. But I do think you said to me like that. There's a load of 30-year-olds single. I do think it's just impossible to meet people properly. Now, I do think that most people then meet between like friend groups or.
That's how it used to be. You used to always have a common acquaintance where people used to invite their friends and you invite your friends and.
But now it's changed, isn't it? It's all just online. And if you're not online, then what are you doing? But yet all of these people online seem to be like fucking people over. Like,
it's so difficult though, because I guess there's just the availability of I don't know, coming from Zimbabwe where you were like, you used to get stressed if your girlfriend or boyfriend broke up with you because you're like, the pickings were slimming. You know, the pickings were slim.
God, that's the worst way of looking at it.
But I'm just being honest with you.
That's why you went to the UK, to go and pick up more chicks.
Yeah, just...
Wolf whistle at them.
Yeah, wolf
finger
whistle
them in a van.
That. All the British girls, nice and
easy.
You can
finger me in your fucking BMW. Nice and easy.
Yeah, British girls are like slappers.
Oh,
I'm joking. I take that
I'm
back.
actually holding a screwdriver right now, which is about to go into your eye.
No, I'm joking. I take that back.
You know what? You just struck really lucky.
I did.
All sense, to be quite honest.
That's why I put a ring on it.
I just wish you'd understand that. Do you know what I mean?
That's why I married you.
Secure the fucking bag. Do you know
that's why I married you, because I...
Secure the inheritance.
I saw the, how...
What, the benefits financially?
No, just how amazing you are and just that you provide so much value to...
here we go. You go from all British girls are slappers to you're amazing.
No, I say that
you're bipolar. There's the one.
Yeah, I am very happy to be bipolar. I think that everybody is neurologically
challenged.
Unique.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. But generally, British girls are on like the common misconception is that they're pretty easy. The defense.
Okay, you're talking from your small little town of Zimbabwe, where you had 3 girls to choose from.
But that's
cycled
the thing
around numerous times.
I never
ended up
did
with
that,
a number of STIs that you've never addressed until you've all moved to the UK and used the NHS system. Is that correct?
Much. Yeah.
Or is that the fact that you were all there wanking probably over British girls in Zimbabwe? I'm not sure.
Wanking each other.
Or were you wanking off people in the townships? I don't know. Like, you tell me. What were you up to? Domba Shower. That was... Exactly. So you've got 3 girls to cycle around in Zimbabwe. Do you not think they're all slappers? Do you know what I mean? Oh, there's a turn on that.
There were some girls that got passed around.
Most of those girls were passed around at least 4 times between your friends. So don't even give me that shit.
Not by me, though.
Obviously not. Mark's the angel.
I've got high morals and I don't like steering other people's porridge.
Or maybe people just weren't interested in you. There you go.
Yeah, that's probably more like it.
Dipshit. I know it's because I was just too good for them. That's why I wasn't picked. No, I just didn't look great as a teenager.
No, I didn't.
Literally, it's the same. But I do agree. Like, it's the easiest thing for a woman to do is to sexualise her. Like, really easy. Fuck. Like... if I'm not wearing a wedding ring, do you know what I mean? Get my tits out. I'd probably be able to con quite a few people out of some money, I reckon, on a London Saturday night. Do you know what I mean? Easily.
Yeah.
A few bottles of champagne. Go to the right places, mingle around. That's the problem. Is it's so enticing to do for women that are single.
You could also do it to a woman, though. You just got to go to...
go for the very vulnerable ones.
Yeah, what's that bar next to the Hollywood Arms in Chelsea? It starts with a B or a D.
I'm getting the D.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Oh, not the one that...
It's where you get all the...
the one
divorced women.
Lomax.
Yeah, you get all the divorced Chelsea women there.
Yeah, okay, 100%. Like, you dealt with a client who was like a princess of somewhere. Wasn't she like a princess of somewhere, like, quite well? I don't know. And Didn't
Denmark.
she bought like a man, like a
Yeah, she
fucking
bought the guy a house, a
house,
Muse
and then
house,
he
for like
fucked her
5
over.
million. And he was a weirdo.
Yeah, and
It's
then
very,
conned her out
very,
loads of money.
very easy. You know, there are a lot of men and women that are both very vulnerable, that are just looking for companions
But
in
I
this
don't think
world.
men are as vulnerable. I think a lot of
Yeah,
men
they are.
actually really
They are.
enjoy it.
They are vulnerable as shit.
Yeah, I know. I've spoken to men before who are like, I just don't feel any other value than like my wealth. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
if
"Oh, that's a
you
bit
no,
weird."
yeah, no.
But I feel
that's-
like you
I
kind of
think
have to be
it's
at the
both
older age.
sides. But yeah, I'd say the older you are, the more vulnerable you are, because you're
But then,
just
you know, if you spoke to like, so we've got a client who's divorced and she went on dating apps, like dating sites, all of that, like to try and find something. And oh my God, it was like one cretin after the next. And these men like tried so hard to like entwine themselves into her life. She like hated, oh God, we were training
so
her and there's like
embarrassing.
men screaming at her behind in the camera. Like, fuck, it was like really fucked her. And she was scarred for life.
But it's generally like that with men, and the relationship between men and their partners, personal trainer or personal trainers.
No, I think they were
Always
really weird,
weird.
and they were also like, "Oh,
Always
hi, we're
very
now part of the
weird.
family." And it's like we've been on 2
You,
dates.
every time you were training a woman that had a partner that wasn't necessary, you know, you'd always turn up in the background in a robe, or like with a shirt off, or like
just
with
make
minimal
sure that
clothing on, just
fucking
like
knows that I've got a
just
pair of
weird,
testicles.
man. Yeah, it was just very strange. Where it's like, oh, there's so and so, just with no clothes on. You're like, okay.
Yes, oh sorry, my husband's in the background. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
very
I guess
weird.
that's just a level of threat. Like, I don't know, like it's the same as like people always used
Oh,
to
it's
say to me, like, were you ever
demounting
concerned when Mark trained like really well known, really like hot people? And it's like, yeah, obviously, I mean,
But
'cause he
even when
technically banged me as a client, so. Yeah, well, you just don't know if that behaviour is going to repeat itself.
yeah, but you're clearly far more attractive and desirable than
Then what? Than everyone else? Well,
yeah,
that's only
obviously,
you
because you're
secured
the
bag.
only person that I ever crossed the metaphorical line with, and gave you the full
Give me
in-depth
the
service.
full fucking in-depth package. Yeah. Long-term package. The
Buy
long-term.
10, get fingered for what,
Oh my
for
God,
what you know.
don't say that,
I
Mark.
know,
You
take
think
it
that
back, I'm
I'm with you for
sorry.
your fingers. Do you know what I mean? I wish you didn't bite your fucking nails the whole time.
Better than
Gross.
that than growing them.
Yeah, no, that would be even weirder. Like long nails.
But even
on a
when
man.
you were, training
Did you say
people.
Down syndrome?
No, but even
Down
even when you had Down syndrome, but even when you were training people, especially women, and they would go and tell their better halves, and they would contradict.
Not all the time.
Not all
No,
the
there was
time.
only a
There's
couple. And they would
couple
tend
of
to be
times.
like
more than
skinny models whose like boyfriends were like jacked up with like some kind of steroid issue, or like just angry. Do you know what I mean? The whole time, who like didn't like, for example, like didn't want their girlfriend to ever grow legs like horse legs. Do you know what I mean? Like just IE toned. Do you know what I mean? They just wanted their girlfriend to be like look like she was malnourished. That was literally so like God forbid she should put on anyway, so that they couldn't fling her around in St. Bart's. Do you know what I mean? But no, I think we've actually managed to like turn ourselves completely away from talking about what we'd come on here to talk about in the first place. But I do think we've covered quite a lot. I think in general, things to take away from this podcast are, if you're going to hire professional help, I think first of all, do your bloody research. Work out who's actually good at what before you then go and inquire or seek advice or guidance from people that might not help you. Point 2, always seek third-party advice for any help that you need with your personal life. That is the reasons why we all have jobs and they run really well. And I think, third of all, when you do hire that help, just make sure you listen to them. And you'll only know if something is right or completely and utterly wrong, either by the service in which they give you, which is either dog shit or absolutely amazing, or the progress in which you make, long-term or short-term. That's when you can make a rational decision. But if somebody's telling you something, there are reasons behind it. Not everybody's out there for the lowest calorie diet or the Nexus thing. We're actually out there to help you overall. So that's the end of the podcast. Mark's going to go and hit on all the slappers in Britain, and we're going to talk to the 3 girls that cycled around Zimbabwe. Anyway, speak to you next time. Bye.
Bye.